our longest trusted English newspaper since 1898. Now available digitally. Computer, order the Manila Times Digital Edition. Subscribed. Get the Manila Times Digital Edition for less than 2 pesos and 50 centavos per day when you sign up for 1 year. The Manila Times, news source of choice, trusted since 1898.
Welcome. Thank you for lending an ear to the Voice of the Times for Thursday, June 2, 2022. For today's editorial, government must encourage flexible work arrangements. Earlier this year, the government caused some controversy when it announced that economic zone locators, primarily business process outsourcing or BPO firms, would lose tax incentives if they did not return to full on-site work status for their employees. Since then, the government has not been as strident in its calls for employers to return to normal, but it has not changed its position. We believe that the present circumstances for most workers are such that flexible work arrangements are even more important now than during the height of the pandemic, and that the government must encourage rather than frown on work from home and other hybrid work arrangements. At the time of the controversial directive to BPO firms to fill their workplaces again, the government explained that the approval of off-site work arrangements was only intended to be a temporary measure while the risk from the COVID-19 pandemic was high. Having workers return to the office was also important, the government said, to support the other businesses that relied on those workforces for their market: stores, restaurants, transport operators, and others. That latter idea continues to be expressed, albeit in a more subtle fashion, in government statements concerning the country's economic recovery from the pandemic. To be fair, it is not entirely wrong. The economy as a whole is a collection of value chains, and when links in those chains are weakened or broken, the negative effects can spread. However, focusing on the health of the related businesses and ignoring that of the reason those businesses exist, in other words, worrying too much about the welfare of the local stores and transport providers at the expense of the office workers from whom they derive their income, can have the same negative effects. Workers who have recently returned to the office are finding it more costly and time-consuming than it was prior to the pandemic and its associated restrictions. Around Metro Manila, there is a critical shortage of public transportation, which directly affects 70% or more of the workforce. The entire country is beset with higher inflation, much of it coming from higher fuel costs that, along with traffic congestion that is certainly no less than it was before the pandemic and may actually be worse, makes commuting costly and time-consuming for car owners as well. The situation will only grow worse in the coming months when millions of students return to regular in-person classes for the new school year. Apart from commuting woes, overall higher inflation also means that workers are likely spending less by choice rather than need, particularly since many people are still in the process of recovering financially from the pandemic downturn. People are probably spending as much as they were before, if not more, but they are spending it on necessities that cost more now, thanks to inflation. And while we would certainly like to think the pandemic is behind us, the risk of it is spreading, which was the reason for everyone's adapting to remote work and other hybrid arrangements in the first place, is unfortunately still very much present. Just this week, the health department warned that there has been an uptick in new COVID-19 infections. It is not a dangerous situation at this point, but a reminder that precautions still must be taken and that carelessness could lead to a disruptive resurgence. Encouraging everyone to go back to in-person work tends to heighten that risk. The government should instead encourage employers and employees to continue work from home arrangements where possible and should communicate this clearly. The choice of what arrangement is suitable should be left to individual businesses and would not result in negative economic consequences or lower productivity, as virtually everyone has had 2 years to adapt to the new normal. Promoting flexible working arrangements could possibly even help to curb inflation by reducing or shifting demand for things like fuel and energy. Most importantly, it will help to keep everyone safe, avoiding another resurgence of COVID-19, and economy-killing lockdowns and other restrictions should still be the first priority. And that's the editorial for Thursday, June 2, 2022. For more news and information, get a copy of the Manila Times on print. Subscribe to its digital edition or log on to www.manilatimes.net. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram. And listen to the voice of the times.